We are live right now, buddy. So, all right, everybody, this is Don with the Flip Talk Podcast, and I'm here with Ricardo today. We're going to be talking the truth about this business and getting into some deep conversation. Before I get into that, some business real quick. If you are watching this live here on Facebook, ask a question, make a comment. I actually can see some of them, most of them, not all of them, but I will respond to the ones that I see, and it definitely helps boost this and gets more viewers out there. Share it if you come across this. Definitely share it out there. And of course, if you're looking for a mastermind, I got to do my Be in This Room plug. So if you're looking for a mastermind community and you want to be a part of something where we're growing businesses to be what they need to be, go to beinthisroom.com and check it out. Ricardo, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, Don. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm truly honored to be talking to you today. Your podcast is one that I really follow, and I listen to I cannot say on a daily basis because I listen to like 10 different podcasts at the same time, but I listen to it on a weekly basis, and to me, it's part of my university. So you have a great lineup of guests from all different backgrounds and sources, and I'm honored to be here today, man.
I appreciate that, man. So I really do, and it's an honor to have you on, definitely. So for people who don't know who you are, I know you got your own podcast, right? What's the name of your podcast?
So I have
gotta
the
hear it.
Renovating Riches Radio,
Right.
and I have the Truth Behind Success. It's two different podcasts, two different audiences, and Renovating Riches is sort of like the Flip Talk, but we focus more on the journey of the person being interviewed, and it's not real estate. It can be entrepreneurs. You know, we've interviewed chefs and people that have nothing to do with real estate. On the Truth Behind Success is pretty much where I tell people the not so pretty side of what it is to achieve success, all the things that we gotta do to overcome challenges and things of that nature. And I sort of relate it to a story for the most part. So it's two different messages. I enjoy doing them. I never thought I would be doing a podcast, to be honest with you, but here I am. So
Yeah, I never thought I'd be doing a podcast either. It's funny how that happens, right? I was not a put myself out there person, so I get it. So who are you? How'd you get started in real estate? Let's talk about that for people who don't know who you are, haven't heard one of your shows before. Who are you? Give me your pedigree.
let me go back. So I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but I was not raised in this country. I was actually raised in Venezuela.
Okay.
Venezuela, it's a country in South America where is well known for beautiful women and oil. And I grew up from my father that he still is in the insurance business, and he's a very successful man. And then my mom, who actually used to look after us, and she had a factory, like clothing factory and all that. So I was born in a family of entrepreneurs. Um, but it's the crazy thing is that my for my father's side, they were all actually in academics, doctors, lawyers. My grandmother was a teacher, and her sister was like the director of one of the schools. So they focused on education a lot, and they made me go to school and these kind of things. And my dad wanted me to go to school as well after I graduated high school to get a degree, because that was the thing to do. It was safety, security, better future. You can join a big corporation, and I guess from his point of view, I didn't have to struggle as much as he did. Coming up as an entrepreneur. So by the time I was 12 years old on, I had already been working for my dad for a couple of years. I was an 8-year-old kid that I looked up to my father, and I saw him wearing a suit, and I was like, Dad, I want a suit. I want to go to the office with you, help you or whatnot. And he did. So he allowed me to become part of his company at a very young age. Of course, at 8, 9 years old, you're not doing anything of any responsibilities, other than moving files and folders from one side to the other one. And I was, I guess, the assistant to his secretaries. And but by the time I was 19, I was already running all the operations in his company. And he had a multi-million-dollar business, at a very young age. So he was somebody that I really looked up to growing up. But he was always forcing me to go that college route, and I hated it. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college. It wasn't for me. I was never a good student in high school. I was a CD guy, and I found alcohol and partying at a very young age. So in Venezuela, if you can walk to the liquor store, you can buy. And we started doing that when I was 12, pretty much. So by the time I was 15, I had already partied a lot. I was a full blown teenage alcoholic, I will call it like that. I would go to clubs and all that. So I was following a path that wasn't really good for me. I don't know what I was celebrating, to be honest with you. But every weekend I found myself on that trap. But I had money to support my lifestyle, I guess, because I was working. And it kind of like caught up with me later on in, when I was like on my early 19, 20, 21 years old. When I was 19, I was fortunate to get my girlfriend pregnant. And she told me that we were going to have a child, and I was happy. And I was like, oh, and she was devastated. Like she was scared to death. But I saw it as a good thing. So I had my daughter when I was very young, and I was a child having another child, pretty much. The good thing is I had a job. I make okay money. I wasn't getting rich or anything like that. I was just making ends meet. But I was working for my father, and my father really wanted me to go to college. He really was, pushing me to get out of that partying life sort of thing that I had going on. And that drove me to actually leave the business. And I had a little bit of money saved, and I had created good relationships where, I could actually start buying products in Miami, Florida, where I used to live at the time. And so I graduated high school when I was 17 in Venezuela, moved to Miami. And my dad thought, okay, from leaving Venezuela, going to Miami, the party's going to be over for him now. And no, guess what? Now I'm in the party capital of the world, Right. So I started sort of going to college, but I didn't really like that much. I flunk everywhere I could, and just to get kicked out or whatever. But I continued with my job with him. And then one day we just clashed, and I took my, I went on my own. I started buying cell phones and cases and chargers, and I was shipping them to Venezuela. And because that's where I knew I had my network, I had all my friends, and it was sort of easy to do business there at the time. So quickly, in less than 6 months, I had 3 cell phone stores in Venezuela. I was actually, I had like a Verizon, I would call it. So I had a code with the local carriers, and everything was going fine. I started making decent money. Maybe at the time I was probably making $5K a month or something like that. 20 years old, that's a lot of money. I'm an entrepreneur, and now my suppliers are giving me lines of credits, so I can leverage my capital and double it pretty much in merchandise. So what happened to me at the time, I think I bought $50,000 worth of merchandise with my money, and they fronted me another 50 grand. So I was in debt with them for 50 plus my 50 that I had on it to supply my stores. And when the container arrived to Venezuela and I opened it up, there was not a single case, not a single phone. Everything had been stolen somewhere in between where we shipped it and where we were supposed to receive it. I didn't have insurance. So here I am now, $50,000 in debt because I still owe my suppliers, and my stores didn't have enough inventory to supply the demand. So I had to sell them literally at a huge discount in order for me just to cover the debt. And I was literally lost, Don, for I don't know how long. It was probably 6 months or so after I did the whole thing that I sold the businesses to a friend that's actually still in business today. So I got him into that business, and he's doing very well for himself. But I was lost. I didn't know what to do. Finding a job for me, I tried to find jobs and this and that, but nothing really, appealed to me. And I already knew how to own my time. So I said, okay, I need the basic things. I need insurance for my daughter now, who's a couple of years old. I need a paycheck. I need to stay alive at least to pay bills. And how can I get that? And I was so lost into where I wanted to go. I didn't really want to, didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I joined the military. It was an easy way out for me, and got to join the Navy. I said, you know what? I like to travel, so I'm in the Navy. I'm gonna go see the world. And next thing you know, I'm going to boot camp, and now I have my basic things covered, which is insurance for my daughter. Right at that time, my ex-wife, and I were actually going in different ways, but at least her insurance was taken care of. I had a little paycheck that I could rely on. And one thing I said is I'm going to learn discipline and a new craft by joining the military, and I did. So I became a diesel mechanic. I had never turned a light bulb in my life, or a wrench or nothing. So I decided to become a diesel mechanic. I was always a paper pusher with my dad, and a business guy on the cell phone store thing. And that's how I ended up in the military. I served for 4 years. After 2 years, I quickly realized that I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to own my time, but I had to use the skill sets that I had learned in order to make it outside. And when my 4 year term came up, I applied for a bunch of oil and gas companies in the Houston area, and I had like 19 job offers, I remember. And coming from the military, you're making, I don't know, $1,500 a month or whatnot. And I had a job offer at $100,000 a year, and I had another job offer at $12.13. And I took the one for $12.13 because he provided more growth and all that. So that's how I ended up in Houston. I didn't have any family here. I didn't, I didn't even like the city, to be honest with you. Like, I drove by it a few times, and I was like, man, I don't care for this place. But the opportunity for me to make good money in the oil field was here for me, and that's how I ended up in Houston. So I ended up working in the oil and gas business quickly. I went from making $12 an hour into making $100,000 a year, from $100,000 to 200 in a matter of, like, I don't know, 18 months or so. And your life changes when you start seeing that kind of money. I had never seen that much money in my entire life. I had been gone a lot because I was working offshore on the oil rigs, and I was working all over the world: Australia, Africa, Singapore, Malaysia, Brazil, Canada. I've been to almost every continent. I cannot say every continent, but almost every single one of them. And I found myself with a lot of time now in my hands, because when I was not offshore, I was at home. And while I was at home, I didn't really have anything else to do. But most of my friends that had the same job, they would just go spend money on toys. I was not a toy guy. So I was like, man, what can I do with my money? And I started reading books and trying to understand. And one day I watched a show called Flip This House. And I saw how a guy from San Antonio went and bought a house for, like, I don't know, 40 grand, put 20 and sold it for 100. And I was like, wait a minute, man, this guy just put $70,000 on a project. And he collected like 30,000 more after closing costs and all that. It takes me, I gotta be gone for like 60 to 90 days to make that kind of money, but I'm working for it. He literally bought the property, he contracted people, and pulled the project. And of course, they showed all the drama, right? The contractor stealing money or whatever, or the roof caving in. And so I got hooked up on that stuff. And I started looking into, okay, how do I buy my first investment property? Which is the right way? I started learning about the 70% rule. These things were really vague back then online. This is 2006, roughly 2007. And so I didn't know very well the process. So it took me about a year from the time I watched that show until the time I bought my first house. And that's really got me into that's what got me into real estate. So for many years, I was a passive active real estate investor. And when I say passive active, is because I was actually buying properties, renting them out, but I was actually going to the rehabs all the time and being on top of contractors. So I was managing people. And in between 2008 and 2015, I flipped and rented and sold probably about 100 houses, all of them while I had a job. So I worked offshore in between 2005 and 2012. And then from 2012 to 2015, I was part of management in a large corporation here in Houston. So I went from literally working in the shop, putting valves together, all the way to running a $120 million business at the end of my career in the oil and gas business, making good money, good life. So I was not that corporate hater anymore. I was enjoying it, and the corporate world was allowing me to get all kinds of loans with banks and to refi houses and this kind of thing. So I enjoyed it while I did it. And then in 2015, the oil and gas business really took a hit in Houston, and I got laid off. And now I found myself with a lot of time in my hands, a very expensive lifestyle that I had acquired throughout the years, no income coming in, but I had the knowledge on how to flip houses. And I reached out to a couple of my friends and I said, look, guys, you guys got good jobs. You guys make good money. Why don't we start a company to where we buy rehab houses, we rent them out, and I use you guys as leverage with W-2s and credit. Even though I still had a good credit and all that, now I didn't have a job. So banks don't like you very well when you don't have a job.
Right.
Yeah. So we created a company called We Flip It For You. And the reason why we name it like that is because a lot of our other friends that were in the oil and gas industry started to kind of reach out to me because I had that history of flipping houses and for that many years, and we were helping them get into properties, and we started selling them houses, and that's what got me into real estate, and that's sort of my journey until up to that point. So I remember getting laid off in 2015. They laid me off, and also most of the people that I hired. I say it was the oil and gas business downturn, but I say that it was also political, because I don't see why they had to fire everybody I hired personally. And there's another story to that we can probably get into a different episode. But I got there, and all my employees are there. A couple of them are crying, freaking out. They've been in the company for a long time. I brought them from Brazil, actually. So they were expats here. And I said, look, guys, I'm getting laid off too. So, if you're better off by signing the paperwork and moving on. And a couple of them were refusing because they were in shock. So I had to literally sign my papers in front of them. That way they see the leader, their boss is like, okay, the boss is signing, we sign, and everything goes well. The HR manager says, Ricardo, man, thank you so much for helping me with these guys. I would have never expected this from my manager, that's getting laid off as well. And I was like, look, man, I'm nothing but grateful to this business, to this company, for the great life that I've had up to this point. And I don't see why I got to do you guys wrong. You guys got to make a decision based on numbers and those kind of things. And that's it. And I needed to help you facilitate that with those employees. And I remember, Don, I walked out of that building, beautiful building here in the Houston area, by the way, got on my Mercedes-Benz I had at the time. And I got on the highway and I'm reflecting on what just happened. And I'm saying, my whole income just went away. Yeah, they gave me a little package, but that package wasn't going to last too long in my checking account because I have mortgages, taking care of my mom and the cars and my daughter going to school and all that. So I started reflecting on what happened, and I was like, I will never be in this position in my entire life ever again, where somebody dictates whether I get paid or not. Now, up to that point, I had flipped and done a lot of houses, but I never had done it to where I could live from it or sustain myself from it. And I said, I got two options. I can go find me another job, which I actually had another job offer available at the time, or I can make real estate happen for me. I don't know how that's going to look like. I don't know what's going to take. My wife was pregnant 6 months with our son Maximo, who's 4 now, and she didn't take it very well because she's, all of a sudden she lost all her security and all that. And I got home. It was a Friday actually, and by the way, never lay off somebody on a Friday. That was always my policies. Do it on Mondays, not on Fridays.
Right.
But I got home on that Friday. I told my wife what just happened, and she freaked out, man. And I had to take her to the hospital. It wasn't pretty. But then I said, look, don't worry about anything. I'm going to make real estate happen regardless of whatever comes our way. And that's how we're going to own our future. And that's how I became a full-time real estate investor. My back was pretty much against the wall. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out, number one, how to now utilize all this extra time that I have on my hands now to either source deals, money, put partnerships together. I've always believed in partnerships and leveraging other people. Even though today I'm more of a solopreneur than a partner, I still have a full-time business partner. His name is Dennis Rodriguez. He's like my brother. He's a great guy. But at the time I was like, how can I multiply myself through, I don't know, 10 different people, leverage their credit, leverage their jobs, make connections with lenders, and start buying properties, and myself make a living out of it. I had to replace roughly $20,000 to $30,000 of income that I had, and I was doing pretty well in the corporate world. I had the golden handcuffs for a few years. Once you get to 200-300 grand, that's very hard to walk away from. But now they just put my back against the wall, and I made it happen. So I remember I was flipping 3 houses when I got laid off. And these houses are in the range of like $150,000 to $200,000 ARVs. And in Houston, that's sort of, cookie cutter type deals or great rentals. And 2 of them were out of budget, and the other one I had just started. So I'm starting in my full-time real estate investing business now with very few rentals, because even though I had up to 47 rentals at some point, I got rid of a lot of them. A lot of them were headaches. They were in the wrong areas or whatnot. So a lot of learning, experiences throughout the years. And I'm over budget already in 2 out of 3 projects. So I was behind. I was laid off and behind on these rehabs. And I remember telling Jose, one of my business partners at the time, and I was like, Jose, I don't know what we're gonna do, man, but we have to up our game. We have to go and these 3 rehabs, that's not gonna cut it for us. This is 2012 roughly. No, 2015 now. And he's like, so what do you think we should do? And I was like, well, we need to start flipping 10 houses at the same time. And he freaked out. He's like, 10 houses? You must be out of your mind. We're having a tough time doing 3 projects. And, you're talking about going to 10. That's kind of like 3 times the volume. And, so a lot of limiting beliefs, right? And I said, well, Jose, you got a good job, man. I don't have one anymore. So I gotta make it happen. And that's how we quickly went from 3 houses to 10 houses. And then later on, 2 years later, we're flipping almost 40 houses at the same time. So buying the properties that we bought, rehabbed, and either rented or sold.
Very
so
cool.
that's
Very cool.
pretty much the rundown on how I got to real estate investing and what got me into being a full-time investor.
So let me ask you this: you're renovating, right? That's your primary source of income is rehabbing, right? Just like
no. So no, right now our primary source of income is wholesaling. So one thing that happened was back in 2016, I was an MLS hacker. Like I can find gold on the MLS, and I bought a lot of houses off the MLS. I had these formulas that I literally put on my search engines on the local MLS accesses. Even though I didn't have MLS access, I could, you can still go on pages locally like har.com or whatever. And I will buy houses based on price per square foot. I didn't look at the areas. I just said, okay, I want to buy anything. I want to look at anything that's $50 a square foot or below. And I will look at the whole Houston area and spot them, because Houston is sort of ARVs is anywhere from $100 to $120 a square feet. So if I find anything below 50, it's worth looking at it. But what happened is back in 2016, that disappeared, because I guess a lot of the people caught up to that, to finding those deals online. So I had just met this guy, Dennis, who's my business partner today. And he was a realtor, and he's like, man, how can I help you? We met at a barbecue, nothing to do with real estate networking or whatnot. And I was like, Dennis, I don't know, you have MLS access. So if you help me find deals, then you can be my realtor. And he goes, okay, perfect. So he started quarterbacking a couple of deals, but then those deals, they dried out. And he came to me one day and said, Ricardo, I read somewhere in Bigger Pockets that if you send yellow letters and postcards, we can get to talk to motivated sellers directly. And I just laughed. I was like, what? Sending letters and postcards? I don't understand. So he explained to me the whole thing, and we did our first mailing campaign in an area that I actually like properties for rentals, and we got 2 houses. And I was like, man, this is too easy. I want to do more. And so we started, we created an acquisitions company for our own flipping business. We were not wholesaling. We were buying everything that we came across. And that changed later on due to a different situation. But that's how we got into, that was the door opening to wholesaling. So long story short, 2017 came about. We were doing 40 houses roughly at the same time, about $8 to $9 million worth of projects. We were walking on water, Don. We're at the top of the mountain, and now I'm thinking I got to go flip 100. We have 47 employees on our general contracting side. We have a materials coordinator. We had a full-blown general contracting operation, full-blown acquisition operation, and we operated out of our warehouse. I loved it because we were wearing Bermudas and pretty much sneakers all day long. I didn't have to dress up. We didn't network much in the area because we were very busy doing the business itself. So I didn't know the other investors in the area. I knew some of the guys because they had big names, but I was not your regular networking guy that's in every networking event, or whatever. And here Hurricane Harvey hits. And when Hurricane Harvey hits, something completely weird happened. Number one, we had a few of our rentals flooded, and we had to go fix those in order to put the tenants back on our properties. But number two, all our workforce quit. So we went from having 47 employees down to like 3, because now they went to chase the shiny object, which was demolitions and other rehabs at a much higher price.
Right.
And that put a dent in our business that you have no idea. We're still paying for it until today. But we said, okay, we got all these projects now. How do we finish them? Where do we find the people to work on them that are not going to rip us off? And how can we stay alive? Because at this point now, you're going from being a multi-million-dollar operation into, how do I make ends meet? Like, how do I make sure I can keep the lights on? How do I make sure I keep paying my private lenders? How do I, all of these things start happening. So we said, okay, we're good at negotiating properties. We know how to find them. We have a whole marketing machine behind us. Why don't we just go wholesale them now? And instead of making, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000 a property or keeping them for rentals, we just make a quick 10, 15 and move on. And if we can do 10 of these a month, then we are going to stay alive. So for us, making $100,000 a month at the time wasn't even that we were getting rich. We were just trying to make payments to our lenders and keep the lights running. So that's how we got into wholesaling. And a friend of mine, actually, who you should have on this podcast at some point, I'll tell you the name later, he explained the power of wholesaling to me at some point, but I didn't understand it. I guess I wasn't ready for it. And his definition was, he said, Ricardo, you're doing all these flips, but your money comes literally 6 to 9 months from acquisition. And yeah, you get a little bit of money up front because of the general contracting and all that, but your big chunks, they're coming later on. They're not coming right away. With wholesaling, the speed of money is literally 2 to 3 weeks. It could be 60 to 90 days, but you're seeing your return faster. And all you got to do is keep pumping them out. And as soon as we started analyzing, okay, how can we go from a big flipping operation into a big wholesaling operation? That's the first thing we looked at. And that's how we became wholesalers. And today, wholesaling is literally 70% now of our revenue. We still have about 14 rehabs going on. That we're actually, once we're done with those rehabs done, we're done with them. We don't. I really don't care for them anymore, because I've discovered that the speed of money in wholesaling is much greater than the rehab itself. Plus, we're actually now venturing into commercial properties that we're going to build from the ground up. So we're shifting very fast, but it's been because of necessity. It hasn't been because it was actually a cool thing to do.
Very cool. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack there. So we are doing a lot more wholesaling now. I think that rehabbers, have this mindset block when it comes to wholesaling. And mine was that I felt like wholesale was going to cannibalize my rehab business. And it did in some ways. But it also expanded my cash flow and other opportunities. So
right.
The rehabber should be looking into wholesaling. Wholesalers should be looking into rehabbing. So what was the transition like from rehabbing to wholesaling? Was it an easy transition, or did you struggle with it?
Oh my goodness, I struggled with it. It was never easy, because we've always been playing catch up. So, once we shift from, okay, we're not rehabbers anymore, we're wholesalers now, that we just happen to have a rehab business on the side that we need to dispose, literally, because that's it turned into a huge liability overnight.
Right.
We struggle with cash flow. We struggle with, moving deals fast enough, because now what Harvey did is he brought all the wholesalers from the country to our hometown. And so now I'm competing against a bunch of other people that don't know the market. They're making all kinds of stupid and crazy offers, much higher than they should. The deals are drying out. I'm literally spending a lot more in marketing than I was before. So it was a rat race, man, and it was a catch-22 kind of thing. It's like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And I remember telling Dennis, like, look, Dennis, something that defined us is we're always doing what other people are not willing to do, and we're going to places that people are not willing to go. So for the most part, most of our rehabs were actually an hour to an hour and a half from the Houston area. So we focused in the country, in the little towns outside, blue collar towns, nearby refineries. And people will tell me I was crazy. Oh, you're crazy. Why are you rehabbing a house an hour and a half from Houston? I was like, the numbers are great. I get great renters. You have to rent the property. They make good income. The ARVs are there. And actually the cash flow on the rent is much better if I end up keeping the property than if I buy it in Houston. So I didn't mind driving an hour and a half to a rehab, because the numbers were much better than Houston. But now that we have all this influx of investors, hedge funds, everybody and their mama showed up in Houston that day with their checkbooks. And I told Dennis, like, look, Dennis, everybody's eyes is in Houston. We need to go somewhere else. And he goes, like, where? And I was like, I don't know, Tampa, Florida. And he's like, why Tampa? I was like, well, the beach is pretty and the sand is white. And if I wanted to set up a business, it'll be in a place like that. And literally, Don, that's how we started marketing to Tampa, Florida, and getting houses there.
Very cool. Very cool. So what marketing are you doing right now that's working? Like, are you doing postcards, cold call, text messaging? What's working for you right now?
Yeah. So a lot of word of mouth works for us. A lot of marketing through our local meetups. We JV with a lot of wholesalers. We're big in direct mailing. We own all our mailing equipment. We actually have a mailing company called directmailout.com. Where we sell to investors locally, and we have some other people around the country that they want to get like quicker results. That's what defined us. Like, if you put an order today, your phone is ringing in 3 days, literally. So we started that out of necessity to supply our own demand, because we were direct mailing only for many years. After Harvey, the mailers didn't work as well anymore, and I don't know what happened, but the response rate wasn't there. It dropped from like 1% to 0.2%. And we had to really reinvent our marketing ways. So we started doing a lot of Facebook ads. We will shoot videos of, me or Dennis, like, talking about the process of buying a house or whatnot, put it on Facebook, and then we'll go on appointments. So we used to go on every single appointment. It was us. And the beauty was when I get to a house, the lady will say, "Oh, I seen you on TV. I seen you on TV," because we were marketing to older people. TV for them is Facebook. So we'll end up locking them up on their contract. We started doing also, well, let's see, postcards, mailers, Facebook ads. Oh, we did PPC. We got our butts handed back to us through it. We lost a lot of money. We didn't know what we were doing. We hired the wrong guy. We got some leads, but we didn't know how to handle those leads because at the time we were just in Houston, and we will get a lead in Ocala, Florida, and we're like, Ocala, like how do we know that market? Like we had a mindset of I gotta be in front of every seller and I gotta be in their living room. So a lot of those leads we literally turned to waste. So right now I can tell you that what I'm doing is I'm doing mailers. I love mailers. I actually take the time to put neurolinguistics programming on a yellow letter to where if the person reads the letter or scans the letter, they get a message in their subconscious mind and they call me. And a lot of times they say, I don't know why I call you. I get 100 of these letters, but I embed words throughout the letter to where if they just scan it, they're going to read, please call me ASAP, I'm your guy, that kind of deal. But it's all scattered throughout the letter, bold letters, and those kind of things. So I really went and studied the marketing avenue of direct mailing, because even Google does it. So if Google does direct mailing, it means it works. Right. It's more expensive. Sometimes your calls doesn't come as quick. It takes longer. We've gotten calls 2 or 3 years later after we planted a letter or a postcard. So we keep on sending them. We're doing Facebook ads. We're doing SEO. We get a lot of SEO. It takes time. It takes 6 months to a year to start ranking in different areas. We're doing virtual wholesaling now. So now everything we do is over the phone. We exchange pictures by text messages and that kind of stuff. And we send them a DocuSign, get the property under contract, and open title with a local title company. That way it's easy for them to close. And then that's pretty much the main. I just set up a call center. We have currently 2 cold callers in-house here in Houston, but we're in the process of interviewing for 9 more. And all our acquisitions are done locally. I use VAs, but I use them for other tasks like building our websites, graphics, editing videos and audios and things of that nature. So I've gotten into a little bit of, I'm going to get a VA for cold calling or for text messaging or whatnot. But somehow I find that when I have local people that are hungry, they tend out to produce better numbers than some guy in, I don't know, the Philippines or Colombia or whatever. So that's sort of what we're doing for marketing: cold calling, SEO, text messages. We just built our own text messaging platform that's wholesaler friendly, that we can actually exchange pictures, and Zillow is connected to it, and it's pretty cool. I'm the only user, so I haven't shared it with any of my friends yet. And we're doing the mailers, and I want to get on PPC, but I just don't know enough yet. I don't know if I want to get bit by that snake again, because your money goes quick. Mm-hmm. So that's something that's in the back of my mind, but I haven't played much with it. So we're doing a little bit of everything. I believe having multiple fishing hooks will catch the fish.
Right. So, okay, let me ask you this: commercial. What are you using to go after commercial stuff?
So the commercial thing, you know how the universe has a strange way of working things out for you, and I believe we got into this commercial deal that we're putting together right now by being forced to it. So one of those 40 houses I was doing in 2017 was sitting on 3 acres of land in a great location that's actually one of the main, it's not a highway, but it's a main road that connects a couple of small towns. And it was one of those rehabs that we could never get to it. It's so far away. We're like, man, what do we do with that thing? we had an office actually where our landlord was a commercial real estate investor. He's a commercial real estate investor. The guy's 84 years old, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And he will continue to come to our office and say, Ricardo, when are you going to quit playing with houses? Why don't you start doing commercial? And I was like, I just don't know how to do it. Houses is what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, 15 years. And he's like, well, look, I'm 84 years old. I've already made my money. If I'm willing to show you how to do it, will you be open to it? And I was like, absolutely. Mentorship, from somebody that's done it and been there, I'm more than willing to pay attention to you. So he showed us how he was building mini warehouses and he was renting them out. And one of the things he told me is that, Ricardo, the key to this development thing is you got to find the land at the right price in the right location and in the path of growth. So I said, okay, I have 3 acres that might fit that criteria. Will you be willing to look at it? And he went and looked at it and said, this is perfect. You can do this, different, avenues. So long story short, Don, not to make it too long, nothing that we sort of put together made sense financially to develop it. Until one day, my business partner goes to a boat and RV, an RV sales place to buy an RV because he likes RVs. And the sales guy says, "Have you chose the place where you're gonna park your RV yet?" And he's like, "Not really. I'll just go to one of those boat RV storages." And the guy laughed at him. He's like, "Good luck on that, man." And he's like, "What do you mean? They're all sold out, and the waiting list is 2 years, 3 years." And he's like, "You're lying." And the guy's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So he quickly left the dealership and stopped by like 3 of these places. And sure enough, they were all sold out. Picked up the phone and he said, "Dude, I know exactly what we're doing on those 3 acres." And I was like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, "We're doing a boat and RV storage." And I was like, I know nothing about that business. I don't know what it takes to do. There's obviously a lot of learning we got to do. And this is roughly about 1.5 years ago. I know we can raise the capital, but we need to do a lot of soul searching on how to do it. Later, long story short, 1.5 years later, we put a syndication together and learned a lot about syndication. Actually, our attorneys are in California, and we're executing our first boat and RV storages. Our PPM literally got approved last week. So
very cool. Very cool.
So that's how we got into it. But the guy showed us, that mentor showed us how to find the land, how to pick the place, even though we already own the land, then how to buy the materials, metal, erection of the building, the whole 9 yards. So that was an angel that God put in our way pretty much to help us figure out that one, piece of property that we own that we didn't know what to do with.
Very cool. Nothing beats a mentor, having the right mentor, right? So,
oh my God, yes.
What advice would you give somebody just starting out in this business?
Take action. That's it. I mean, a lot of people get fixed on learning everything before moving a finger. I'm a firm believer, learn as you go. You're still going to make mistakes anyways. I'm pretty sure you make mistakes, and you've been in this business for a very long time. I still make mistakes. I've been in this business for a little while now, and not being afraid of making mistakes, getting back up, overcoming those challenges, and learning from the mistakes. That way you don't do them again. That was one of my learnings lessons. Harvey was, I'm never going to get caught up with 40 houses again in my life in the Houston area. Maybe in San Antonio or in an area that doesn't have the weather challenges that we do here, it should not be a problem. But here it is a problem. So that's why it's a lessons learned for me that I won't do that in the Houston area again. So take action is the one thing that I can tell the newbies or somebody getting into real estate. Find a mentor and somebody that's done it. Pay them, because they will save you a lot of headaches, time, and efforts, and will literally lay down a foundation strong enough for you to be successful. And their time is valuable. Every chance I can pay a mentor, I will. And that's it. Just take the action and go make it happen. Perfect. Tell everybody how to get a hold of you, man. RenovatingRichesRadio.com on YouTube or thetruthbehindsuccess.com. That's pretty much where I'm at. Send me a message through those channels, and I'll be more than happy to connect with with you, and hopefully we can be of service.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. So if you got value from this, make sure that you are subscribing, liking, sharing it, do whatever you can. I'm kind of doing this thing right now where if you share this show out and you snap a picture of you sharing it out and send me a picture of that, I will send you a link to get a free Flip Talk shirt and probably some other goodies if I decide to throw some more in the box there, which I usually do. So do that if you're interested in being part of a mastermind community. I don't want to keep you from being part of that. So go to beinthisroom.com and check it out and see if it's something that's fit for you. So Ricardo, thank you for being with me, buddy.
No, I appreciate you, Don. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's been an honor and pleasure.